Hello everyone, this is Pooka bringing you another Pokemon TCG video, and we have a brand new Pokemon trading card game expansion set out, and this one is called Plasma Blast. Now this is the third set featuring the Team Plasma Pokemon, and also the Team Plasma cards. It encompasses Pokemon, trainers, and even energy, so it's been a big theme in recent sets. And in this set we have, of course, more interesting cards, powerful cards, and things that are going to affect the game quite a bit. So as I've been doing for the past few sets, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what I think are the top 10 cards from Plasma Blast. Stay tuned, don't miss it. Now before we jump into the top 10 list, I do want to discuss one card I didn't put on the list that a lot of people have kind of been buzzing about, and that is Cradily. Now this is technically a Stage 1 Pokemon, although it does have to come through the restored Pokemon Lileep, which only can be put into play through Root Fossil Lileep, so automatically it's kind of difficult to get into play. It has this Life-Splosion attack though. For each energy attached to Cradily, you can search your deck for a Stage 2 Pokemon and put it directly on your bench. You do not have to go through any fancy evolving process or anything, you just put it right on your bench. So obviously there's a lot of potential there. But I think potential is all it's going to be. Alright, I don't see this card being very good. It just takes too much to get into play. It requires grass energy, which limits the kind of Pokemon you can put into play and still use effectively. And also, Root Fossil Lileep is not a basic Pokemon, so you have to find yourself adding extra basic Pokemon as well. And it's just kind of clunky and doesn't work. So, Cradily is kind of my honorable mention here. I don't put it on the top 10 list, but you never know, down the line, it could be good. Alright, and also one more thing before we jump into the actual top 10. I just want to make a mention that any cards that were reprinted, such as Professor Juniper or Pokemon Catcher, won't be on this list. Because, well, they're already out. So, we're just going to do brand new Plasma Blast cards. Alright, top 10 coming at you. To kick things off at number 10, we have the brand new supporter card, Iris. Now, Iris is kind of a unique supporter card. For each prize card your opponent has taken, if you play Iris, your Pokemon's attacks now do 10 more damage for each prize card they've taken. So say your opponent has taken 2 prizes, and then you put down an Iris and you attack for the turn, your attack now does plus 20 damage. Obviously this can go all the way up to 50. After your opponent has taken 6 prizes, you have lost. So at most you can add 50 damage to your attacks, but that can be a very big deal. In the past we've seen a similar card called Black Belt, which could add 40 damage if you were behind on prizes in a game. So this is a card that has a lot of potential and could certainly find its way into some decks, because a lot of games are decided by just 10 damage. Think about all the times if you've played the game where you just needed to do 10 more damage to knock out that last Pokemon to win the game. Maybe Iris is your solution. Of course, it is a supporter card, so it is difficult to use sometimes. You only get to play one supporter for a turn, but you never know where Iris is going to pop up and get you that crucial knockout. At number 9, we have a combination of 2 Pokemon that really dislike Team Plasma Pokemon, apparently. Haxorus and Sawk. Now, Haxorus is probably the first one that comes to people's mind when they saw this set. The attack Strike of the Champion. What an awesome attack name. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a Team Plasma Pokemon, it's instantly knocked out. No ifs, ands, or buts, but I think that's how the saying goes. Probably just screwed that up. Anyway, no questions, you just knock them out completely. And you just say, Strike of the Champion, and the Team Plasma Pokemon goes to the discard pile. Sawk has a similar attack, Kick of Righteousness. What's with these attack names? It does 10 plus 40 if the defending Pokemon is a Team Plasma Pokemon. So both of these clearly are a response to the popularity of Team Plasma Pokemon, and honestly their dominance since they've been released. Unfortunately, they don't seem to have much use outside of taking care of Team Plasma Pokemon, and Sock doesn't even do a very good job at it. Sure, it'll handle things like the Team Plasma Absol, but beyond that, doing 50 damage isn't going to do a whole lot. Haxorus, of course, would be very effective. Knocking something out immediately is always good, but it is a Stage 2 Pokemon, and also it requires a Fighting and a Metal Energy. That's very costly. It's going to take 2 turns to power up since neither type really has any energy acceleration. So Strike of the Champion, even though it sounds awesome, it's going to be difficult to pull off. Still, these cards definitely have potential, and if Team Plasma Pokemon remain as popular as they are right now, who knows? Maybe Strike of the Champion and Kick of Righteousness will prevail over that evil Team Plasma. Next up, we have another combination of Pokemon. These two actually work together this time. That would be Sigilif and Masquerade. Now, Sigilif has the ability Toolbox, which allows you to attach up to four Pokemon tools to Sigilif. Now, of course, there are all sorts of Pokemon tools in the format that can be used on this, but you can attach 4 of any of them at one time to Sigilif. Actually gets kind of clumsy when you try to attach 4 different cards to a Sigilif, then you try to put an energy on there too. It gets kind of weird, but whatever, it's still a cool ability. Then you have Masquerade. It has the Tool Reversal ability, which allows you to pick up a Pokemon tool on one of your Pokemon, which, then you could reattach it somewhere else. So both of these have abilities revolving around Pokemon tool cards. Why are these cards important? Well, there is a Trubbish from a previous set that has, yes, I said Trubbish, that has an attack called Tool Drop, which does 20 damage times the number of Pokemon tools in play. That's right. You can attach 4 Pokemon tools to a Sigilif, and then Trubbish counts 20 for each one, so you could potentially start doing ridiculous amounts of damage with this little Trubbish using Tool Drop. So you can also use Masquerade to rearrange your Pokemon tools as well, which is why it's an important card and why it's on this list here at number 8. I don't know how competitive this stuff will be, but it's cool to see, and Masquerade and Sigilif definitely open up a new deck for Tool Drop and Trubbish, and that's why they're here at number 8. At number 7, we have the Water-type Pokemon, Suicune. Now, this may not be the most overwhelming Pokemon, but it is pretty solid. The ability is what really makes it playable. Safeguard, like the Sigilif we had in Dragons Exalted, prevents all effects of attacks, including damage done to Suicune. So it is immune to all those EX Pokemon that we see in, well, just about every deck. It also has a decent attack in Aurora Beam for 1 water and 2 colorless. It does 70 damage. So the 1 water requirement and only 1 water and then 2 colorless makes it easy to splash into a lot of decks. And I realize the irony of splashing a water Pokemon into a deck, but it's true. Now, I don't know if this card will end up being playable, but it is interesting to note that a deck revolving around Suicune and Terrakion won a Battle Carnival in Japan, which is a tournament that gives the winner a trip to the World Championships. So this was a card that had a lot of success, but it's probably very dependent on the metagame because, well, if you run into things that are not EX Pokemon, well, this card is pretty bad. But if you face nothing but EX Pokemon, this is pretty good. So that's why Suicune is on the list. It's always something you gotta keep in mind. Next up on our list is an Ace-Spec item card, and that is Up Cyclone. Now, this is one of the many Ace-Spec cards we have available to us nowadays. Of course, Ace-Spec cards, you can only play 1 copy in your deck total, so you can't play 1 of each Ace-Spec, it's just 1 total. So if you're going to play this, that means it's the only one you can play. Alright, so Up Cyclone, it's put 1 of your Pokemon back into your hand and all attached cards. So it's very similar to the card Super Scoop Up. The difference between this and Super Scoop Up, though, is that you don't flip a coin, which is nice to eliminate that randomness. Super Scoop Up was an awesome card. It was played in a lot of decks, but of course it was very unreliable. And when you put it into a form where you don't have to flip a coin to use it, well, obviously it gets even better. Now the question with every Ace-Spec is it worth playing? Is it worth playing this over cards like Computer Search, or, Dowsing Machine, or any of the other A-spec cards out there? That's a question you're going to have to answer for yourself. But the reality is, Up Cyclone definitely has a lot of potential. You never know when this card's going to pop up, and it is a definite game changer. At number 5, we have another Pokemon, and this time it is an EX Pokemon, and that's going to be Jirachi EX. At first glance, this card looks terrible. 90 HP? Really? On an EX Pokemon? 90 HP. That means when it gets knocked out, it gives up 2 prize cards. Now in the past this was fine, but nowadays, EX Pokemon can have 180 HP. Look at Darkrai EX, it has 180. Why does Jirachi EX have half of the health that Darkrai has? It makes no sense. Just looking at that, and then looking at the attack, Hypno Strike, that's not very good at all. 60 damage for 3 energy, and you put both Pokemon to sleep? Really, you had to put Jirachi to sleep too? I mean, just looking at these statistics, it is terrible, but then you look at the ability. Stellar Guidance. When you put Jirachi EX down on your bench, from your hand, you search your deck for a supporter card and put it in your hand. Oh, okay. Now this card may have some worth. How many times have you played a game and your hand just had junk, but you at least had a way to search for a Pokemon? If that's the case, now you can play Jirachi EX. So anytime you have a level ball or an ultra ball, anything that searches for a 90 hit point Pokemon, you can turn that into a supporter card. So if you ever have a dead hand, now all of a sudden, hey, I get Jirachi EX, put it into my hand, I get a Professor Juniper from the deck, and I get to draw a fresh hand of 7 cards. That is awesome. That effect cannot be overlooked. Now, is the drawback worth it? That is the question about Jirachi EX, and that's what we'll have to see. That's why it's not higher on the list. This ability is perhaps one of the best abilities in the game. Being able to, kind of fish yourself out of a bad position, that is priceless. But is this 2 prize liability sitting on your bench really worth it? I don't know. We'll have to find out. So Jirachi EX is going to sit here at number 5. I'm sure it's a card we're going to see played in tournaments. It's just how many people are actually going to take the risk and use this little guy in their decks. At number 4, we have the Blimp Pokemon, Drifblim. Now, Drifblim has the ability Drifting Balloon. For each Team Plasma Pokemon your opponent has in play, the attack, any of its attacks cost 1 less energy to use. And then you have Derail, which does 70 damage for 3 colorless energy and then discards a special energy attached to the defending Pokemon. So basically, this card is specifically tailored to be effective against Team Plasma decks, much like the Haxorus and the Sock we saw earlier in the video, but this one seems to be a lot more practical. If you're playing against a Team Plasma deck and they have 3 Team Plasma Pokemon in play, which they usually do, now Derail actually costs 0 energy. That means you can attack for free, do 70, and discard a special energy. Not bad. So Drifblim, we've already seen it get a little bit of play. It's already a tech card that a lot of people have noticed, but how much play will it really see? Honestly, it all depends on the popularity of those Plasma decks, and if they continue to remain popular, we'll probably see Drifblim more and more. So keep an eye out for this purple balloon in the future. It'll probably be floating around. Recently, people have been complaining a lot about 2 things. Number 1, the dominance of Team Plasma Pokemon, and number 2, the dominance of EX Pokemon. At number 3, we're going to have a pair of tools that look to kind of mitigate the strength of both of those. First of all, we have Silver Bangle, a card that if you have it attached to a non-EX Pokemon, and then you attack against an EX Pokemon, your attacks do 30 more damage. The other one is Silver Mirror. If your Pokemon also cannot be an EX, if the Pokemon has Silver Mirror attached to it, it cannot be affected by a Team Plasma Pokemon at all. So effectively, Silver Bangle can help you knock out those gigantic EX Pokemon much more easily, and Silver Mirror prevents Team Plasma Pokemon from hurting you at all. Of course, these are Pokemon tool cards, so they can be discarded by that Tool Scrapper card, so there is a way to kind of deal with them still. But there's no denying that these cards are extremely strong. If you're ever in a spot where your opponent is playing a Team Plasma deck and they don't have any Tool Scrapper cards left, or maybe if they don't even play them, then your Pokemon is immune for the entire game, and they can't even deal with it. So you're just kind of free to keep attacking with one Pokemon, and you might just win because of Silver Mirror. Silver Bangle, of course, allows you to get easy knockouts, and when EX Pokemon give up 2 prizes, this can be a game changer. So number 3, the Silver Tools, Silver Bangle, and Silver Mirror. Finishing up at number 2, it's probably the pair of cards that received the most hype when the scans from this set were revealed from Japan. Might not be the pair you were expecting though. It's going to be Genesect EX and G Booster. Now, Genesect EX, of course, is probably the face of this set. Let's be honest, it looks pretty sweet, and then it has some pretty cool stats as well. Grass is a pretty good type to be, and the ability Red Signal, whenever you attach a Plasma Energy from your hand to Genesect EX, it's basically like a Pokemon catcher. You just say, get over here, and you drag a Pokemon off the bench, bring it to the active spot. Megalo Cannon is a pretty good attack as well. For 2 grass and a colorless energy, you do 100 and 22 bench Pokemon. And since it is a Team Plasma Pokemon, we can take advantage of Chorus Machine as well to power this up a little bit faster. Now what makes it really strong is its A-Spec card, G Booster. When you attach this to Genesect EX, you get an extra attack. It's kind of like a TM from the video game, and you do 200 damage. Now you do have to discard 2 energy, but the cool thing about G Booster is that nothing stops it. It goes past any effect. Even the Safeguard we saw earlier, even the Silver Mirror we saw earlier, no matter what, this damage will go through, and odds are it is just going to blast the active Pokemon away. This is why Genesect EX receives so much hype. It can do 200 damage. That is pretty darn good. So the only question left is, what's better than this combo? There's still one card we have left. Let's see. Before we get into number 1, let's just take a little recap and look at the other top 10 cards. Number 10 was Iris. Number 9 we had Haxorus and Sock. Number 8, Sigilif and Masquerade. Number 7, Suicune. 6, Up Cyclone. 5, Jirachi EX. 4, Drifblim. 3, Silver Bangle and Silver Mirror. And of course number 2 was just Genesect EX and G Booster. Now that just leaves us with one card, and that is going to be probably the most versatile card in the entire set, Virizion EX. Now at first glance this may not be the card you peg to be the best card in the set, but I think it is. Why is it so strong? Well, honestly it's because of the ability Verdant Wind. Whenever your Pokemon has a grass energy attached to it, it cannot be affected by any special conditions. Recently in the game, special conditions have dominated the Pokémon TCG. Last year at US Nationals, of course, the Gothitelle Excelgor deck, which revolved around poisoning and paralyzing your opponent, was very dominant, but the card that really affected the game the most was Hypnotoxic Laser, which could put your Pokemon to sleep and poison it as well. Virizion EX effectively neutralizes both of those kinds of threats. And when you take away Hypnotoxic Laser, which was not only a way to disrupt your opponent, but do explosive amounts of damage between that and Burbank City Gym, Virizion EX becomes extremely powerful, and honestly, this is a card that we're going to see played a lot. Now, of course, the drawback is that it requires grass energy to be attached to your Pokemon in order for the ability to activate, but it's still pretty darn good. It's also interesting to note you can use not only basic grass energy, but cards like Prism Energy and Blend Energy, as long as they provide grass energy. So this can fit into more decks than you think. Also, Emerald Slash is a very good attack. For 2 energy, it does 50 damage, and then you get to search your deck for 2 grass energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon. So overall, this is just an extremely solid card, but man, shutting off special conditions is a very big deal, and that's why Virizion EX stands on the top of the mountain as your #1 card from Plasma Blast. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up our top 10 list from Plasma Blast. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, if you have any feedback, please leave it down in the comments and let me know if I screwed up, if I did anything good, or if I can do anything better. Also, let me know if I missed any cards you thought should be on the top 10 list, and let me know if you think cards should be in a different order. Of course, this is just my personal opinion, so it could be out of order. Let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Again, I hope you enjoyed. I am Pooka here from the Top Cut. We'll have some more videos for you soon, and I'll see you guys next time.